Overthinking and inner chatter are some of the most common issues we face today. We have to be aware of how to silence our minds so that they don't interfere with our daily life. So let's learn how to deal with overthinking and excessive inner chatter in this video. Have you ever noticed that your mind never seems to stop running? Even when you're busy doing something, there are still some thoughts wandering around in there somewhere. And when you try to rest, that's when those thoughts seem to come out full force, keeping you up at night. It's important to know that you're not alone in dealing with this problem. In fact, almost everyone struggles with it in some shape or form. But what exactly is happening in there, and why do these thoughts keep coming back over and over again? Now, first, when we talk about silencing our minds, it's important to understand what we mean by that. It doesn't mean completely emptying our minds of all thoughts and emotions. That would be impossible and actually not very healthy. Rather, it means learning how to manage our thoughts and emotions so that they don't control us or cause us unnecessary distress. Second, we need to understand that our thoughts are just that, thoughts. They're not facts or commands from Allah. Many times we get so caught up in our own thoughts that we start believing them to be true, even if there's no evidence to support them. For example, if you're feeling anxious about something, you might start thinking negative thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "I'm going to fail." These thoughts may feel very real and impactful, but it's important to remember that they're just thoughts and not absolute truths. Third, we should recognize that we have the power to choose which thoughts we focus on. We can't always control what happens around us, but we can control how we react to those events. This means that we have the ability to choose whether or not to dwell on negative thoughts or to focus on more positive and constructive ones. For example, if you're feeling anxious, you can choose to focus on your breath instead of on the negative thoughts. Now let's delve deeper into the question of why our minds get stuck on certain thoughts. Well, there are several reasons why our minds might get stuck on certain thoughts. One reason is that our minds tend to fixate on problems or worries until we find a solution to them. This is because our brains are wired to seek out patterns and make sense of the world around us. So when we encounter a problem, our brains will keep thinking about it until we figure out a solution or find a way to cope with it. Another reason is that our past experiences can also affect the way that we think. If we've had negative experiences in the past, we may be more likely to think negatively in the present. Even if there's no reason to believe that the same negative outcome will happen again. This is because our brains are always trying to protect us from harm, and so they will use past experiences to predict what might happen in the future. Additionally, our current emotional state can also affect our thinking. If we're already feeling stressed or anxious, we may be more likely to focus on negative thoughts and possibilities, even if they're unlikely to happen. This is because our brains are always looking for threats and dangers, and so if we're already in a state of high arousal, we may be more likely to interpret ambiguous situations as being threatening. So now that we've covered why our minds get stuck on certain thoughts, let's discuss some tips on how to stop overthinking and inner chatter. First and foremost, we need to acknowledge that overthinking and inner chatter are normal and natural parts of the human experience. Everyone experiences these things from time to time, and it's important not to beat ourselves up for having these thoughts. Instead, we should try to be patient with ourselves and understand that it's okay to have these thoughts, but we don't have to give them any attention or power over us. Another helpful tip is to focus on our breath. When we're overthinking or stuck in a loop of negative thoughts, it can be helpful to focus on our breath as an anchor to the present moment. By paying attention to our breath, we can bring ourselves back to the here and now and stop ruminating over past mistakes or worrying about future possibilities. To do this, we can simply close our eyes and take a few deep breaths, counting to 5 as we inhale and then exhaling. As we exhale, we should try to let go of any negative thoughts or worries that may be present. It's also important to practice self-awareness and pay attention to the thoughts that are going through our minds. By becoming more aware of our thoughts, we can start to identify the patterns of overthinking and negative thinking that may be contributing to our distress. We can also learn to recognize the triggers that cause us to overthink, so that we can avoid them or prepare ourselves for them. This can be difficult at first, but with practice, it becomes easier over time. We should also try to challenge our negative thoughts and question whether they're really true or helpful. Often our negative thoughts are based on assumptions and distortions of reality. By challenging these thoughts, we can start to see them in a different light and realize that they are not as powerful as we think. We can ask ourselves questions like, is this thought helping me? Or what evidence do I have to support this thought? By doing this, we can start to break the cycle of overthinking and negative thinking. In addition, it can be helpful to engage in activities that distract us from our thoughts and help us focus on the present moment, such as spending time in nature, practicing yoga or meditation, or spending time with loved ones. These activities can help us shift our attention away from our thoughts and towards the people and things in our lives that are important to us. Finally, it's important to remember that seeking professional help is a sign of strength and can be a helpful tool in managing overthinking and inner chatter. Therapists are trained to help people identify and change negative thought patterns and can provide support and guidance as we work to improve our mental health. To summarize, overthinking and inner chatter are common experiences that many people go through. While they can be uncomfortable and distressing, it's important to remember that these thoughts are not dangerous, and we have the power to choose how to respond to them. By focusing on our breath, practicing self-awareness, challenging our negative thoughts, and engaging in distracting activities, we can learn to manage our thoughts and emotions more effectively. Seeking professional help is also a great resource and can provide us with the tools and support we need to overcome overthinking and inner chatter. As Muslims, it's also important to remember that Allah is with us in all times, and He wants us to live peaceful and balanced lives. By following the Prophet Muhammad's teachings on mindfulness and seeking refuge in Allah from Satan, the accursed, we can find comfort and strength in our faith. One thing that might be helpful is to remember that we are not alone in this struggle. There are billions of other people who experience the same kind of thoughts and feelings that we do. Knowing that we are all in this together can be comforting and reassuring. It's also important to remember that we're not perfect and that we're only human. We're bound to make mistakes and have negative thoughts from time to time. Instead of beating ourselves up about it, we should try to be patient with ourselves and forgive ourselves. After all, Allah is the most merciful and forgiving, and He wants us to be kind to ourselves as well. Another thing that can be helpful is to focus on the bigger picture. When we're caught up in a loop of negative thoughts, it can be easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. We may start to feel like our lives are defined by our negative thoughts, and that there is no hope for change. But the truth is that our thoughts are only a small part of our lives. There is so much more to us than our negative thoughts, and we shouldn't let them define us. Instead, we should try to focus on the positive aspects of our lives, such as our relationships, our accomplishments, our hopes and dreams for the future. Doing this can help us put our negative thoughts into perspective and remind us that they are not all there is to life. It's also important to remember that our thoughts are not commands from Allah. Just because we have a thought doesn't mean that we have to follow through on it. For example, if we have a thought to do something wrong or harmful, it doesn't mean that we have to do it. We have the ability to choose whether or not to act on our thoughts, and we should use that ability wisely. By following these tips and keeping these things in mind, we can learn to manage our overthinking and inner chatter and live more peaceful and balanced lives. Remember that Allah is with us always, and He wants us to be happy and at peace. So don't be afraid to reach out for help and support when we need it. We're all in this together, and we will get through it. Now, before we wrap up this video, I want to leave you with a final thought. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength and courage. By being vulnerable and open with those around us, we can create deeper connections and receive the support and understanding that we need. So don't be afraid to let down your guard and open up to someone you trust. You might be surprised by the kindness and compassion you receive in return. And that's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. Like, comments, and share.